What's up, everybody? Corey back again with another review. This week I'm looking at Oddworld Soulstorm Enhanced Edition. Yes, this game, originally an exclusive for the PlayStation and then on the PC, is now coming out to Xbox in this Enhanced Edition. Basically, it includes the game itself, Oddworld Soulstorm, and it adds on not only, balancing and gameplay updates and whatnot, but also a Viker's Lab, which takes you back to the old school Abe 2D single screen type levels where you just need to get from point A to point B. And there are a dozen or so of those added on to this game. So for the game itself, it's actually a remake or a reimagining of Oddworld Abe's Exodus, which came out in the late 90s. Abe's Exodus is the follow-up to Abe's Odyssey. So if some Oddworld lore for you, they remade Abe's Odyssey into Oddworld New and Tasty a couple of years ago on the current gen hardware. And now they have actually done that again, twofold in my opinion, for Abe's Exodus in this Soulstorm game. So it's a direct sequel to New and Tasty if you're coming from the new system. The game is once again about saving your people, your followers. You play the role of Abe, who is a Mudakin with some kind of presence or power to him. And you're going to go through these levels and get from the beginning to the end. And along the way, you are trying to save the followers that you come in contact with. Now, this is a self-proclaimed 2.9D game, so it's primarily moving left to right, maybe some right to left platforming, but they add some really cool camera changes once you kind of maybe take a curve a little bit. That's where the 0.9 comes in. Otherwise, it's mostly 2D gameplay. What makes it more than just platforming, not only is the part where you have to save your followers, but you have to do it while sneaking around and coming up with solutions in order to get past small sections of the levels that have enemies. Now, there are a ton of enemies. Most of them are sligs in this game, or a variation of the slig, and they can come with the form of weapons such as flamethrowers, machine guns, just regular guns. There's flying sligs, and they're just all over every level of this game trying to stop you. And you're going to have to get crafty with your methodology of passing them. Sometimes you can do the brute force method and actually take them down by possessing one of them and shooting the other enemies to get past. That's one way. Maybe you are going to stack up on these smoke bombs so that once you're in them, you are invisible to the enemy. And as soon as they're not looking, you can kind of scooch along as quietly as you can. There is sneaking in the game, so if you hold down the sneak button, you'll make less noise. There's a sprint button as well, so when you're trying to make a longer jump, you'll have to use that. But the challenge of the game really does come in the form of getting through these sections as peacefully as you can, along with saving your people. To aid you in this iteration of the game, they actually have added crafting. So as you're navigating the levels, you're going to be looting lockers and trash cans and opening crates and finding different ingredients in order to craft various throwable items. You might come across rock candy, which will, after a few blows, finally stun an enemy. But if you find rubber bands, then you can craft a bouncy rock candy, which will then bounce off the walls more and will take out the slug instantly. You might even find some tape. As soon as you add tape, well, it will instantly bind the enemy, wrap them up, and then they will just disappear. So you always are going to be looking, looting, and crafting various items in order to help you get by. Now, one thing to note about the Oddworld games, if you have never played them, is they always usually come with a good ending and a bad ending, and Oddworld Soulstorm is no different. Except, in this case, it's not just an in-game cutscene that we're talking about. In Oddworld Soulstorm, if you can actually achieve the quote-unquote good ending, you are rewarded with 2 extra bonus levels. So you actually get more content from the game. In order to get the good ending, you have to finish most of the levels with good karma. And the good karma comes from saving 80% of the followers that you come in contact with on each level. There is level select, so never fear if you don't happen to do quite as good as you hope. You can always go back. But it is actually a challenge in order to hit this mark. You do have to think about not only how you're going to get across the sections, but how to do so in a way that most, or if not all, of your people are going to survive as well. Now, luckily, the game has a vast amount of checkpoints. Usually between each section that you need to get across, you're going to come across one checkpoint at the end of it, and sometimes in a longer section, maybe some scattered throughout. This is really good if you happen to just make a small mistake. You can just go ahead and get shot or load up the start menu and reset the checkpoint and kind of go back to it. Try as many times as you want. That's actually a really good point about this game is the retry ability comes at you so fast and you're able to adapt and try to do as best as you can without having to go through the whole level. That's really good because one of my downfalls for the game was the level length. Now, there are 15 levels in the game. The good ending, again, grants you 2 additional ones for a total of 17. All of the levels averaged me about, 45 minutes. And some of those were shorter than that, and some of them were longer, but they seemed long for what they were. Maybe that was me and not doing so good, but I would have liked to see a bit shorter levels. Again, the checkpoints do help, but the level length, I think, could have been adjusted somewhat. Now, for the actual gameplay and the movement, it is mostly platforming. Now, this isn't as free roam as, say, a Mario when it comes to platforming. Abe has his own quirks and tendencies to where he needs to take a step forward, and that kind of feels a little jerky. Now, this is aligned with how those games have played. Even the other new game in the series called New and Tasty, which is the prequel to this, plays the same way. And actually, in actual fact, I went back and played New and Tasty after playing Soulstorm, and they have greatly improved the platforming since then. So it actually has gone upwards for that. But there are still some parts where me as a platforming fan, it just misses the mark just a tiny bit. Now, one thing to note about the Oddworld games, apart from gameplay, is the amazing visuals and cutscenes. And Oddworld has been known for this ever since its inception. They make really, really good cutscenes, almost movie quality. And if you were to stitch them all together, you could just sit down with some popcorn and a drink and watch it. They are that good. I think fans of the series, especially the Abe's games from the PlayStation era, will probably really enjoy Oddworld Soulstorm. I think it is the best version of those 2D stealthy platforming games that they have made. If you liked the New and Tasty reboot, well, I think that you would like Soulstorm even more. I do love the Oddworld lore and the story that they tell, but I did grow up on a Munch's Odyssey, so I kind of have a love for that 3D open world type game that they brought, and I kind of think that holds true for other Oddworld fans. The first Oddworld game that you play is probably your favorite type. So while these 2D ones aren't as much of my jam as the open world 3D ones, as the 3D iterations, I do think that they are really good games, and they certainly provide their fair share of challenges, which are very rewarding, especially in Soulstorm, where, again, you'll get additional levels and more story depending on how well you do. So there you have it. That's my gameplay review of Oddworld Soulstorm Enhanced Edition, now available on Xbox. Be sure to check xboxtavern.com, where I'm going to have some numbered scores, and I hope to see you in the next review.